You're listening to Zoo Nation.
Ready? You have the cameras rolling?
Come on, man.
Welcome to Zoo Nation, where we talk about history as it unfolds and the political zoo of a nation that we're living in. My name is Josh.
I'm Nathan.
And, it's not often that I get butterflies before going live, but I'm about as nervous as Ghislaine Maxwell watching a warden change her sheets right now. It's just, there's a lot going on right now. And it's important to talk about because the important thing to remember about Trump's term so far is severalfold. But I think that the best way to begin is looking at his term overall. We want to talk about Trump. We also do want to talk about some other things. And the big thing that's on everyone's mind right now is everything going on with Epstein. I mean, yeah, didn't somebody die supposedly of suicide years ago and we're still talking about it? Is that your perception? It was always in everyone's mind, but then with the most recent events, it's become even more talked about.
Yes.
That's the way I see it.
Yep.
That's probably the biggest thing everyone's talking about right now. The only other thing I've seen has been some side stories, but the big thing right now is the Epstein stuff and how it's being handled. I wanted to begin this show just talking to you, asking you, overall, Trump's been in for 6 months now. We had a stream about the first 100 days. That went very well. I want to talk to you now and ask you, looking at now that we've had 6 months of Trump in there instead of Joe Biden was in for 4 years. What would you rate the Trump presidency and why? Out of 10.
Out of 10, probably about a 5 or a 4. 5 or a 4 out of 10. That's where I'm at.
Well, why?
Mainly, a lot of it is because of Ukraine. He really went out there in the debates talking about, I'd have the war ended, this, that, and the other, and talking about how he didn't want to necessarily send support, or not necessarily support, but just working the continuation of sending aid to Ukraine just for who knows what at this point. There's that. That's an issue for me. That's a big part. The pushing of the big beautiful bill, as far as the bill itself, there's things that are great, but the way it was pushed, and again, we've talked, a little bit as far as I do kind of hold him accountable. Yes, Congress was who pushed it through faster, but again, those are his guys, so to speak, or at least a lot of them are, in my opinion. There's a lot of stuff. And then also, I know the economy's not going to spike back right off the bat 100%. I understand Biden inflation and everything like that for sure. But at the same point, not a lot has changed as far as economy goes. There should be, at least in my opinion, a little bit of something, and I haven't seen much. So those are just some of the stuff. And then this Epstein thing, kind of putting icing on the cake for me, as far as just the way he kind of attacks people, but in my opinion, is some of his base about this of like, people wanting all the Epstein stuff, and it's just a Democratic, it's a Dem thing, and it's never really been a Dem or Republican thing, in my opinion. This has been, people have seen this as suspicious and odd and weird, however you want to say it. So yeah, those have just been some things. that have kind of affected my rating. I'm not saying that he's not doing, he's doing terrible or whatever, but I'm saying he definitely could be better and has been better in the past presidencies. So, yeah.
I understand. I think that the Epstein stuff smells about as good as Pepe Le Pew, the skunk. Really bad. It's not being handled properly. And it's hard to say to what degree is that Trump's fault, because I've heard some people make the argument, well, it's not technically the president's fault. It's the DOJ and FBI are supposed to be handling this. But then you got to say, okay, but who appointed people for those positions?
Exactly.
And then the question becomes, and this is kind of an open-ended question for the audience to consider, are these people going to stay in power? Because Trump appointed them. I mean, this was big news in 2017 when he fired Comey.
Right.
The president can fire the director of the FBI.
Yep.
So at any point, he can look at Kash Patel and say, nope, and have that iconic Apprentice catchphrase, you're fired.
Yeah.
He could do that. And he has the power to do that, the ability. The question becomes, will he? What do you make? I wanted to ask you this, and I don't think we even brought this up in the prep.
Yeah.
Do you think that the rumors that went around on social media for a while that Kash Patel and possibly Bondi were considering resigning, do you give any weight to that, or do you think it's just kind of idle chatter?
I don't think that anybody's going to resign or anything of the sort, unless if they do, I think it'll be one of those you either resign or we fire type thing. So so it looks better, as resigning. But no, I just think it's internet, talk. That's it.
Internet is not real life.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there's a degree of real life in it, but it's very small.
Right.
There are people in real life who do use the internet, but a lot of people talk, and then the stuff in the real world is very different. And so we're going to be talking about all of that with you. Now, let me respond a little bit.
Yep.
In terms of the question, well, what would you rate Trump out of 10? I would probably give him a 5 as well. I don't know if I would give him a 4. When it comes to the border, I would probably give him a 6.
Yeah.
He's doing pretty well on the border. And in as much as the One Big Beautiful Bill had money in it for the border, that makes me want to give him a 6.
That's where I think you and I would, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
You're
but
good.
I think just a heads up, I think that's where you and I would kind of have an issue as far as the border. I agree he's doing good on the border. However, there are some flaws to that.
Sure, we can discuss.
Yeah.
To continue, but looking at everything else, I would tend to agree with you. Probably like a 5, maybe a 4 on certain issues, but I would just say a 5 overall. Because you got to look at, okay, if you're a 6 here, but a 4 here, I got to average out and say a 5. Because there have been some things that have been big mistakes. The Zelensky rhetoric, whenever Zelensky actually came to the White House, was really good. He said a lot of things that needed to be said.
Yeah.
However, since then, what's been happening has been a mineral deal, some natural gas discussions of a deal there as well with Ukraine. It's like, well, you're not really giving Ukraine an incentive to try to bring about this war. Right. And then the other thing is, too, is whenever Putin has done some strikes in Ukraine, he just kind of goes on Truth Social, and it just looks like a guy like wringing his hands like, oh no, Putin shouldn't be doing this. It's like, but you didn't say you were going to do that, post things on Truth Social. You said you were going to sit down with Putin, sit down with Zelensky and say, look, this is the way it's going to be.
Right.
We are bringing an end to this war. He said he was going to do it in his first day.
Right.
And I told you before the election, I understand it's not actually going to be before he gets elected or right after he gets elected. It's probably going to take a month or two. It might even take longer than that. Right. Well, 6 months later, this war has not gotten any better. It's pretty much the same. Thousands of people are dying. It's really bad. You've got Slav versus Slav shooting each other in the streets in some cases or out in the countryside.
Yep.
And it's hard because I think Trump realized, well, I am the deal maker, and he is. He's smart in business. And he has some good foreign policy people around him, but this is just a much more difficult thing to bring to an end that he didn't really have in his first term. In his first term, there was not a hot war in Eastern Europe happening. There were wars in the Middle East, different things going on there. It's like, well, what's new? Wars in the Middle East, that's a hotbed of war all the time.
Right.
But Eastern Europe is a very different situation. And he makes the point, well, would it have happened if I was president? No, but it did happen. and now we're waiting on you to try and actually bring it to an end. And so,
and
that's the
again,
point.
day one, I'll have that war,
Right.
which is not. So
it's not happening.
Mm-hmm.
So the point of all of this is that there's been a lot of issues, and a lot of people are frustrated and upset that he's not having the war ended sooner. And I'm actually not upset that much that he didn't end the war sooner. What does upset me is you got to be using carrots and sticks and giving Ukraine deal after deal on energy policy. That's not really a stick saying, hey, Zelensky, you need to be willing to end this war. You're giving him carrots and saying, well, we know that you're not really ending this war or trying to, but here's a mineral deal anyway. We're just going to reward you anyhow. When they need to be saying, no, you need to be doing more. And by the way, Putin does as well, to try and end this bloodbath, more or less. And so that's something that could be handled better for sure. He's also used rhetoric, although it hasn't happened yet, of sending arms to Ukraine again.
Yeah.
Which some people were like, oh, how could this have happened? That's not really a correct way to view this, because of the fact that that he did this in his first term. The war had not happened yet, but he sent javelins to Ukraine. And so it shouldn't be a shock to anyone. It shouldn't be like, surprise Pikachu face that Trump is talking about sending it to Ukraine. The only reason people are surprised is he didn't say that when he was running in 2024.
Right.
To your point, he came across as, hey, if you want World War III, there's Kamala Harris.
Yep.
If you want an end to these wars, you got me, Donald Trump. I'm the peace candidate.
Meanwhile,
and that's how
he
he
was teetering on the end of World War III.
And it's not getting much better. It's just sort of the same in some regards. It might be a little bit better. It's not as hot.
Yep.
So the point of this is promises were made. Have they been kept? Not 100%. Some of them have been kept in some regard.
For sure.
So that's what I would say. I would say overall probably a 5. The economy is going to take time. I get that. I would say by next year, the year after, we're probably going to have a more of a roaring economy. But people want solutions, and they want them now because housing costs are really high. Inflation is still really high. Trump's talking to the Federal Reserve, and it's kind of playing out like in 2017, where he talked to the Fed, and the Fed is technically like a quasi-private organization where they're like, well, we're going to do what we want to do, and you can say all you want, but we're in charge of this. And again, there's pluses and minuses to the pros and cons to the Fed changing interest rates.
Right.
On the one hand, it does help the people that want to buy houses, but the people that want to sell, there's an inverse correlation there. And so the point of this is, I understand where the chairman of the Fed's coming from, and it's a complicated issue, and hopefully things will get better next year. I think that inflation will go down next year. The housing market is more complicated. It may not. So with that being said, I think that's a good way to kick things off.
Yeah.
Real quick, before we even go on to anything else, some stuff that's been, and I didn't even bring this up in the prep, so ambush, just kidding.
Yeah.
Some stuff with the most recent developments of the Epstein story. So here we have a Newsmax article reposting from ABC. Maxwell given limited immunity in DOJ talks. Ghislaine, however it's pronounced, Maxwell, former associate and one-time girlfriend of the late disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein, was given limited immunity by the Department of Justice to talk freely with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche over their 2 days of meetings. So for 2 days, she was basically being grilled by this guy, and they reached an immunity deal. ABC reported this yesterday, Friday. Blanche and Maxwell spoke for about 9 hours over the 2 days meetings that Maxwell initiated with the DOJ, ABC News reported. Her attorney, David Oscar Marcus, told ABC News that Maxwell was asked about maybe 100 different people by Blanche. The so-called proffer immunity was given to assuage fear by Maxwell that information she gave couldn't be used against her in new proceedings, according to the report. So when you hear that, and again, we would probably need to do a little more research on this.
Yeah.
Do you view this as the deep state cozying up with the Trump administration, like this person, the DOJ, is doing his job, or trying to treat Maxwell with kid gloves? Do you tend to view this positively or negatively?
Right now, I don't 100% know how to feel on it. It does seem like a positive, though, just trying to get the information and everything. So I'm gonna view it as a positive for right now, and then we'll see how things play out.
I agree.
That's kind of where I stand on that.
I know in the prep we were talking, and you believe that Bondi is the brakes on this engine, so to speak. This train that's going down the road that ends with people going to jail is not moving, and you really view Bondi as being part of the problem, not part of the solution.
Oh, yeah.
Did you want to expand on that at all?
No, I mean, just I think Bondi has caused some of the issues with Bongino and stuff. Has just caused a lot of the issues because we have this stuff on the desk, and then but that was worded wrong, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, cool. No, I do think that Bondi's caused a lot of is the origin of the issues for the most part. Yeah.
I think some of it is there just seems to be something that's off with her, even just how she carries herself, how she talks about this. And this is why some people are ticked off at Trump. Like at one point, he was sitting at a press conference, and there's nuance to this. He basically phrased it as, I have cleared her, meaning Bondi, to release whatever she can. And the word can is where things get muddy. Because it's like, okay, on the one hand, he's greenlighting this. That's good. Let's take the positive.
Right.
But when you phrase it as whatever she can, well, she's then got the ability to say, well, I can't release this. And a lot of people are concerned that they're going to use the victims as the shield for the client list.
Right.
This is the other thing that's messy is if Trump says on Truth Social, well, there's no client list, which he has. He said there's no client list. Has Ghislaine thought about presenting a legal argument saying, well, you're charging me with selling children to no one?
Yeah.
Like if there's no client list.
If there's no list, then why is she in jail?
I'm selling this to the unicorn in the sky. Right. It's like, no.
And it might not be an actual list as far as like check.
Right.
I think some people get, as far as list, there might not be an actual list of
1 second.
clients, but there is a history. There has to be a purchase history, and also like a lead, so to speak, as far as like, well, how did you get access to, I don't know, Bill Clinton?
It doesn't have to be their list.
Yeah.
They can have banking records, and the DOJ and FBI can take that and run with it.
Exactly.
Okay, well, we figured out that this account was run by these people, and now we're investigating this bank to figure out, okay, well, and I'm not saying this in reality, I'm using this hypothetically.
Yeah.
Hypothetically, Bill Gates had an account here.
Yeah.
That way they can try and trace it. And if it's untraceable, they can start looking at other things. They say, okay, well, we can rule him out or we can't rule him out. And then they present their findings to the public.
Right.
Because then that's where the journalists should be. And again, I don't trust the journalists any further than I can throw them.
Right.
But they theoretically can say, okay, well, there's allegations about this person. Can you confirm or deny? And they can say, well, I can't do either. And then the public can confirm, make their own conclusions.
Right.
Well, this journalist asked about Bill Clinton, and the response was not, oh, he's definitely not on here. It was, well, we can't really speak to that.
Yeah.
And then they can make their conclusions. The public can decide, right? We know that he was on the flight logs. I mean, that we do know. I mean, there's evidence in the flight log. The flight logs more or less have been released. It's the footage of people doing things to kids. That's what's being hidden, and the whole client list thing's also being hidden.
Yep.
And so, but in terms of this, I tend to agree with you. The story I just read, you got to make progress somehow. And if it's giving her immunity, it's a really crappy deal because she deserves to not just be in jail, but probably have capital punishment.
Right.
But at the same time, she is the face of this company because Epstein is dead. This system, she's the face of the system. Because if Epstein was alive, it would probably be him and her. But he's dead,
right?
And unless you're some conspiracy theorist who thinks no, he's secretly alive, I don't go into all that.
Yeah.
But at this point, you got to figure out, well, who did she deal with? And I was listening to one guy talk about Ghislaine should be basically a walking, breathing Epstein list, even if we don't have a physical, like written down paper or like 100%. A document in a computer. She should be the one who could say, yeah, I saw him. Yeah, I saw her. Yep. I saw these people. She should know because she was deep in the organization.
Yep.
And so she should be able to name names. And it says in this article that I just read, she talked to this person in the DOJ, about 100 people.
Yep.
It's not talking about, well, they're intern. No, it's talking about big people, probably people in the royal family across different royal families in this country, in this world.
Right.
Not just Britain, not just other monarchies, but other ones as well. And so that's the point I'm making. And so, that's sort of a big story going forward right now. What all do you think of Patel right now, Kash Patel? Do you tend to think that he's holding it back too, or do you think that he's doing the best that he can?
I mean, I want to believe he's doing the best he can. I believe everybody right now is kind of holding it back to an extent. I don't trust the system, so I'm going to go with everybody's holding things back.
Is it that Patel is holding it back, or that the other bureaucrats are holding him back, and he's trying to fight it, but it's really difficult because I talk about 20 years or 50 years or something of a deep state.
You could make that argument for sure, but at the same point, you're still your own person. So, yeah, I mean, yes and no to that. Some of it's him, and some of it could be the bureaucrats. Yeah, for sure. But again, my argument to that is you're still your own person, so you can still make the decision to do so within your apartment's power.
It's very possible that Patel and Bongino want to go at this hard, and behind closed doors are being told by somebody.
Oh, yeah.
It could be Trump. It could be other people. Hey, we are going to handle this behind closed doors. Don't talk about it very much.
Right.
Or when you do talk about it, here's what you say.
Right.
And it's hard because Patel maybe want to go out there and tweet or at a press conference and say, we are going after these people, rest assured. But he's being told don't. And he's being told don't by either a bad actor or by someone that's, and this, what do you think of this argument? There's people who make the argument, these are like the hardcore trust the plan types, which I'm not.
Yeah, no.
Who are like, well, if we just release all of this stuff, unredacted everything, half of the Western world, if not more, is going to just crumble.
No.
Because these people, so many of them are basically diddling kids.
Yeah.
And if this is all released, there's going to be like French Revolution times 6. My point
I wish, but no.
I know. It's kind of like the little Spider-Man scene of like, I already wanted this. You don't have to sell it to me. Yeah. But at the same, because it's like, well, I mean, if your government is doing this, you should want them out of power. I mean, you should be mad as heck about it, right? And but at the same time, like, I don't really make that argument, but there's some people making that argument, and they try to make the point of, well, you have to release this stuff in an orderly way where you take out one person at a time. The problem, so theoretically on paper, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Does it not? Taking people down, I'm talking about like in a perfect world where we could just absolutely trust everybody. That's not who we have in the CIA, FBI, and military intelligence, the government. You're going to have people who want to shield powerful people, and then those who don't. And so that's why I have such a hard time with, well, just trust the plan, Anon. just it's okay. Trump is playing chess. We've seen this movie back in 2018, 2019, where we were all promised, oh, it's all going to come down, man. And then we didn't really get crap. It just kind of didn't happen. Some stuff happened, little things, but not the big stuff, which was the Epstein stuff. And so that's why I am very doubtful when it comes to, well, just trust the plan. If we do too much too fast, it's not going to go well. Well, you guys have said that. A lot of the same people have said that before, and it didn't materialize. It didn't happen. That's what I would say.
And I also take it as, the frog in the boiling pot.
Yes.
Right. So, like, we've been boiled long enough. You can just release it.
Right.
That's why I say nothing's going to happen.
People have been waiting.
Yes. Yeah, unless there's some crazy, insane smoking gun, which, like, hey, secretly your tax-paying dollars were going towards this the entire time. We never paid for it. I don't know. Again, I'm just making up some stupid scenario. I don't know what a smoking gun in this case would be because we already know.
Aliens are real.
Yeah. Right.
And not one down the street, but like the Martian kind.
Yeah, right.
The Martian Manhunter in the DC universe was actually a work of nonfiction all along.
True.
And they can shapeshift, and I could be one all along.
Yeah.
I'm your best friend, and I've been a Martian all along. What a bombshell. You're like looking at the list of the real Martians, like, holy crap, Josh. How did I not know?
So, yeah, I don't think anything happens regardless. So I do think that you could release everything if you really wanted to. Who's ever on the list is on the list. Nothing's going to happen. People are going to be frustrated at first, but eventually, since everything was released, it gets let go. And then, yeah, that's it.
What have you been following? This is a topic switch. We want to hear you guys' thoughts, so go ahead and comment in the live chat. We'll read them a little bit later as we go. Have you been following, and we didn't bring this up in the prep, any of the stuff going on with Obama?
Yeah, a little bit.
What do you think?
Again, shocker that we like. I mean,
Obama's corrupt.
Yeah,
wow,
crazy. Wow. Obama was talking to what was it, Russia, right? Yeah. Obama was talking to Russia. Crazy.
This guy we have on video talking to Dmitry Medvedev saying, "Give me a couple more months to get reelected, and I'm going to have more flexibility."
Right.
Wow, he had ties to the Kremlin, possibly.
Yeah, exactly.
Whoa.
And it's like, here again, what's going to happen? Nothing. Should something happen? Yes.
Let me interject.
No.
Let me interject. Like, the people like you and I are not shocked. And the problem is the Democrats are going to be like, oh, this is taken out of context. And, Obama did nothing wrong.
Well, yeah.
This changes no one's mind.
Well, yeah.
It's the thing.
The left stays there and the right stays where they're at.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that. It might change some middle of the road guys, but other than that, not really. I mean, it's
one person that was a surprise.
Right. It's one of those told you so, and all right, move along. I mean, theoretically, I guess Trump could, put him in jail, but then that's just a rhetoric for the left to use as far as they already call him Hitler. Oh, and now he's putting his political opponents in jail, and it's like, yeah. So,
do you think Trump will do anything?
No.
Or the DOJ, anything?
No. What does he gain? Except for revenge. Like, what does he gain as far as the U.S.? Nothing. What does he gain as far as himself? Revenge. That's it.
Let me ask you this.
Should he? Yes, but
okay.
But will he? I don't think so.
Well, okay. Will he is one thing.
Yeah.
And I tend to agree with you on the will he.
Yeah.
The question becomes, because we've discussed this, was there any consequence for the election stuff in 2020?
No, of course not.
Wait,
what do you mean? Was there any consequence? The consequence was
like legally.
Legally, no. Okay, I was just saying.
Like in terms of
yes, we got Biden. Yeah,
there's this little guy, Joe Biden, who was in for 4 years. Josh, I don't know. Hate to bring it to you.
Yeah.
I'm
but as far as legal, no. Yeah, no.
So, was anyone arrested because it was proven? Like, I'm just saying, the Arizona audit proved dead people voted.
Yeah.
So on.
However, we've been having having that, for years.
Right, but did anything
on this scale? No. Yeah.
Right, that's the point.
Yeah.
Did anyone get in trouble? No. The point is, though, but consequences need to happen because if no consequence happens, this is just going to keep happening.
Well, also, but now in the court of law, depending on, I'm not going to act like I'm a lawyer or know anything. In the court of law, there is a statute of limitations.
Sure.
So where does that fall? I'm in agreement with you. I'm just saying, where does that statute of limitations fall? So here's one option also, without doing something as far as legal. What we could do, or what definitely either way, regardless, needs to be done is, all right, how do we prevent this from happening ever again? And because what does jail time for people necessarily do? Sure, it shows people that there's consequences, but to an extent, it doesn't prevent people from doing it again, right? Because I might get jail, but I'll just do it better than this other person. So what do we take? What measures do we take to allow this not to happen again? And that's where the voter ID, et cetera, comes in. So there's a lot of other things. I would more so take the approach of, what do we do to have this happen again? Now, if we could get that and, some legal things going, that'd be great. But more so, I don't think that's going to happen as far as the legal stuff, because it never really does for the most part. And I don't have that much faith in our legal system anyway. So, if we can at the very least learn from history and create, rules and regs because of it, I'm okay with it. It's, what did we learn? Well, we learned that this needs to be in place now.
The point that I'm making is, you have to have consequences for crime. And again, I know you agree with that.
Right.
Let's look at this hypothetical. Let's say hypothetically the statute of limitations has not run out.
Yeah, of course.
I think that the case can be made, and I would make it, that Obama should be prosecuted because of the fact that does it look like revenge? Okay.
Yeah.
But what the deep state is going to look at is, okay, here's what we can get away with. Here's what we can't get away with. And the whole Russiagate thing, if true, I want to put the qualifier,
100%.
is huge if Obama did perpetuate that.
Yeah.
And if
No,
not,
it's definitely huge. I'm not taking away from any of that.
right. But the question is, okay, but if it's not outside of the statute of limitations, should it be prosecuted? I would say yes, because if there's no consequences for any deep state puppet, then they're going to continue to do the same thing.
Right, of course.
With your situation of what you're talking about, of, well, they can find another way to do it. Okay, sure. But you are forcing the deep state to do things because they can't do certain things. We need to be the ones in charge saying, okay, deep state, you've tried this before. Here's your consequence. So from now on, when it comes to the president, getting in like a Democrat president,
100%.
doing this, and this, can't do that. You're going to have to do it another way.
Right, of course.
We should do that. And so could it look like revenge? Maybe. But it would look like revenge to the left. To the right, it would be justice. But that's not going to change. No matter what, the left is over here in fantasy land. The right overall is living in reality.
Right.
And saying, no, if it's proven that he committed a crime, he should go to jail.
Right.
In reality and practicality, Trump's in for another 3.5 years. Can he make that case and get Obama fully prosecuted in that time? Will be very hard. He's going to lawyer up. I mean, Obama will lawyer up.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very very difficult to fight battle, but it should be fought, I think. And for right now, it sounds like Patel, and to a lesser degree, to a greater extent, Gabbard is looking into this.
Yeah.
For those of you who are unsure of what we're talking about, let me just read a little bit of some of the stuff Gabbard is saying. So Tulsi Gabbard, a member of the Trump administration, is saying, just a thread she has on X, Americans will finally learn the truth about how in 2016, intelligence was weaponized by the most powerful people in the Obama administration to lay the groundwork for what was essentially a years-long coup against President Donald Trump, subverting the will of the American people and undermining our democratic republic. She has a meme kind of looking at the different stuff, and then she has some text as well. For months preceding the 2016 election, the intelligence community shared a consensus view. Russia lacked the intent and capability to hack U.S. elections. So this intelligence community in the United States knew that Russia could not do this, yet they ran the story anyway. This is what Gabbard is saying. But weeks after President Trump's historic 2016 victory defeating Hillary Clinton, everything changed. So she's saying that the intelligence community then talked to the media and said, no, Russia could do it, even though they knew they couldn't and didn't have the intent. She starts to show receipts. On December 8th, 2016, intelligence community officials prepared an assessment for the president's daily brief, finding that Russia did not impact recent U.S. election results by conducting cyber attacks on infrastructure. Before it could reach the president, it was abruptly pulled based on new guidance. This key intelligence assessment was never published. The next day, top national security officials, including FBI Director James Comey, CIA Director John Brennan, and DNI James Clapper, gathered the Obama White House to discuss Russia. Obama directed the IC intelligence community to create a new intelligence assessment that detailed, Russian election meddling, even though it would contradict multiple intelligence assessments released over the previous several months. So basically, her allegations are that the White House and the Justice Department, all of them, FBI, CIA, as you see, lied to the media and got the Russia thing going.
Yep.
So, like you said earlier, we know. We knew this is just confirmation of what we knew that she's now uncovering. Should it be uncovered? Absolutely. Yeah. People need to know, hey, your liberal aunt that said, oh, you're crazy, that's just a conspiracy theory that Obama got this going. No, here are receipts showing that it did happen. So that's a good thing. We need facts on our side, but we also need to win. And we either need to go to have legal consequences for these people, or to your point, this is arguably more important, make an infrastructure where this can't happen again.
Right, exactly.
And I agree. That's how you actually win, is setting things up where we have the power where, no, now you can't do this again.
Right.
It's really hard because every 4 years or even 2 years, when you look at Congress, that can change.
Right.
Because of who holds power. So wanted to at least briefly cover that. Before we look to the future in terms of midterms, we already talked about Ukraine a little bit. How do you see long term? I just want to hear your thoughts briefly because this has been a thing that this was all over the news a few months ago with Zelensky and Trump and Vance, and also a couple months ago the whole Israel and Iran thing was huge. Let's not look to the past. Let's look to the future. How do you see that going down? Just in terms of Trump's administration, eventually, do you see there being, there's a ceasefire now between Israel and Iran. Do you think that that will hold? That's question A, the Middle East.
Yeah.
And question B, with the whole Russia and Ukraine thing, how do you see that going?
I think it's going to be business as usual. That's what we've got ourselves back into, in my personal opinion, with the changes of something. For example, the border, I guess you can argue, is not business as usual. However, ish. Do you know if the Big Beautiful Bill has amnesty in it or not?
I didn't see anything. I read Congress released
I haven't finished completely reading the entire thing. So
because you have a life and a job,
right?
And Congress, which is their job, they don't even read it. But I have read, I think, the entirety of the summary at the beginning, and that did not have amnesty.
Okay.
So unless Trump does an executive order and gives people amnesty, which he has not done thus far, I don't see it happening. But go ahead.
But no. So other than the border, I think for the most part, a lot of things are business as usual. I think that again, as far as at least foreign policy is going to be business as usual. Like, ceasefire and just, if you do something over there, Middle East, just make it like minor. Don't make it, the big bombing, or whatever. Israeli soldier killed, something like that. That's going to be things, I think, probably. As far as the ceasefire holding, I think it probably, hopefully. And then as far as Russia, so far it does not point in the right direction. It looks like Trump's gonna, kind of pander to Ukraine, and that's how I see that going as far as that goes. So I think it's our foreign policy is gonna kind of be, business as usual, except for the border, which I have my own concerns about. Not with Trump, but
we'll go into that.
It's one of those we'll see. I think Israel probably holds up. Because right now, like, Iran doesn't really have a very powerful leader or anything of the sort. Plus, their infrastructure just kind of got messed up by us. I think that maybe in a few years from now, but right now, I think that it's stationary where it's at, and then Russia and Ukraine is the big one now, which I think is just going to keep going because war fuels, the economy too. So, I
think it's all up in the air. Frankly, I think that Israel or Iran or both simultaneously could break the ceasefire. I hope they don't.
Yeah.
There's incentives to keep the ceasefire, but there's also incentives not to.
Of course.
They both have something to gain if they don't. And so, with that said, with the Russian stuff, I think that you're right. I think that probably what will happen, if I had to guess, Trump will do something weapons-wise for Ukraine. The backlash is going to be like the backlash about Epstein, and he will not do it again.
Yeah.
I think he will do it once, and a lot of people, probably Tucker Carlson, probably Steve Bannon, probably some other people that are pretty big. Maybe they're a vocal minority, maybe they're not, but I think Trump will say, man, I got a lot of backlash for sending aid to Ukraine, weapons especially.
Yeah.
So even though I listened to whoever and they told me, send weapons to Ukraine, heartstrings on the, all that, I think Trump will then say, man, it's not worth it. It's not worth my own base getting mad at me.
Right.
So I won't send more. He might do it as a one-time thing.
I don't think he cares about his base.
I'm more concerned that Congress will be stupid. Because really, Trump can do certain things executively, but I think Congress is more likely to listen to the heartstrings of, because what will happen, Zelensky in a Republican-controlled House. By this point, McCarthy was in charge, and then later when Johnson was in charge, Zelensky came and whined and cried about this horrible war.
Right.
And one of the few things that Mike Johnson stood up about and clapped about in Biden's State of the Union, folks, was about Ukraine.
Yeah.
Biden was speaking about Ukraine, and whenever he said Ukraine, Mike Johnson clapped his hands or stood and clapped his hands, because he's an establishment puppet, just like McCarthy was, in my view. I don't view him as really any better. He might be better on one issue, but I don't see it.
Right.
And so that being said, I think Congress will fail more than Trump will, but I do think that Trump will probably send something or sign something one time over to Ukraine.
Right.
And make it a little worse. But that's the way I see it going. Now, real quick, before we go into some of the midterm stuff and then eventually the 2028 stuff, you referenced the border a couple of times and you clarified and said your concern with the border is not so much Trump, it's other stuff.
Yeah.
Go ahead and say what you have to say. And
no, it's just the amount of funding that went into ICE, basically making it military, essentially. That's not run by, that is strictly under the president's rule. So in this case, again, I'm not really concerned about Trump, obviously. However, this is one of those things of, did we think about the consequences later in life of hey, let's say we get just a really bad person that hates certain people, and this is something that you can enact without Congress against its own people. So that's my concern in the long run. So it's like a doomsday event, I guess you would say. However, again, with some of the corrupt politicians that we have out there, call me crazy, but I can see it happening. The amount, I'm all for funding for the border and everything, but as far as the amount that ICE itself got to basically again build its own military is kind of worrisome to me. And again, these are all what if scenarios, I guess, but at the same time that's my concern with that. The deportation, I understand, but all right, once you get that all under control, why do we still need this entity, so to speak, this massive of entity? You can make the argument why we need this massive of entity right now due to the issue, but why do we need it, after? So, yeah.
What do you think Trump should have done instead, or Trump and the Trump administration, to clarify regarding ICE? What do you think what should have been done instead of what has been done with ICE?
I'm totally fine with the deportations. I'm fine with the alligator Alcatraz is kind of stupid, because that's taxpayer dollars. Let's get them out ASAP. So I question the government. The government's slow, so I always question. When we're building another prison, all right, so how long are they actually going to be here? So it's more so the process that I have an issue with that, because all right, how long are our tax dollars going to be paying for that? But no, as far as suggestion, as far as what my issue is the amount is it's essentially almost more than the military itself. So that's the concerning side for me. It's really just the amount. I'm all for the mass deportation. I'm all for building, finishing the wall. I'm all for all of that. I'm not for the amnesty side of things. I'm not for, the anchor baby stuff. I'm not for any of that. So yeah, it's really the concerning side is having a potential not in check military that's run by, literally just the order of one guy or girl, whatever. That's my biggest concern. It's so what could have been done differently is essentially, all right, so one, just kind of thinking it through a little bit more of all right, what processes can we put in place so what I just said doesn't happen? You cannot use this entity for whatever, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, that's what I would have wanted differently in that case. Maybe a little less money, but yeah.
I would say let's lay out sort of a hypothetical.
Yeah.
To use as I guess the term would be like an analogy. So the way I sort of view it, I want to parrot it back to you and make sure that I understand.
Yeah, 100%.
You're looking at the left and saying, okay, in this analogy, the left is an arsonist. We know they're an arsonist. Yeah. Don't hand them a box of matches.
Correct.
So let's
the left or just anybody, yeah.
Well,
any crazy person.
Sure. Well, establishment.
Yeah, in this case, the left, yeah.
The left, but also just establishment people in general.
Yeah,
it's bigger than political parties.
Right.
So this is what I would say in response to this. So looking at terms of we're in a country, let's just use the analogy of the house is on fire.
Yeah.
With this invasion on the border, the deep state covering for Epstein, what have you.
Yep.
I think it's fair to say in this analogy anyway, the house is on fire. It's not about to catch fire. It's on fire.
100%.
And your argument is, well, let's make sure we don't hand more matches to the deep state. The reason why I would make the argument that this handing over more authority and more money to ICE is not that is here's the following.
Yeah.
Is okay, looking at Trump's term, Trump did not do that with ICE. He didn't give them as much funding. At one point, he was sitting with Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi between the two of them and saying, "Give me $9 billion. Just give me $9 billion."
Yep.
Well, this bill passed and it was over $150 billion.
Yeah.
More than 10 times what he was asking for. So
national debt.
Well, and that's another issue we can go into because I would probably tend to agree with you on fiscal responsibility.
Right. Yeah, of course.
But let me finish. The point that I'm making is, so Trump didn't do what he just did with the One Big Beautiful Bill. He didn't do that in his first term.
Right. 100%.
Did it slow Joe Biden down from arresting people that went to J6? It didn't. Did it stop Biden and Biden's DOJ from trying to put Trump in jail and locking him up? No, they still did it.
Of course.
So my point, I guess, is that this arsonist is burning down this house.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to continue burning down this house. What I view this bill doing is an attempt to fix part of this fire, to put out some of it.
Agreed.
And say, okay, well, this border is a blazing hot inferno. We've got to do something about this. And you would agree that we got to do something about this. Your point is, okay, but what if in the process of
once
this,
you get it fixed, whatever you want to say,
or at least better and under control, contained, will the arsonist take this and use it against you in some form?
Right. You gave them a flamethrower.
And the point is, well, Trump didn't do that in his first term, and it didn't slow down the left at all. So here we have an example of that didn't happen. It didn't slow down the left. And we have concerns about the future, and I understand the concerns about the future, but the problem is if we don't do this with ICE, then I really don't view the mass deportations happening, or at least not to the scale they need to happen. Yeah. About 2,500 people are being deported a day. That comes to about 3, maybe 4 million by the time Trump steps out of office. Biden let in like 15 million of them.
Yeah.
So we need to be doing double, triple the deportations. And that's not going to happen unless ICE is bigger and stronger and has the power to deport these people.
Right.
So on the one hand, I understand the concern. I do. But it really feels like every time the Republican Party listens to, hey, don't use power against the left, we lose. And we don't have any more wins. Whereas at least with doing this with ICE, we have a shot at kicking some of these people out.
Right. And I agree with that. My point is don't leave power to the left. That's kind of my point. Okay. You are now leaving. Like I said, my concern is not giving Trump or the right power. That's not my concern. However, leaving this stuff to the left can then be the issue. Also, in terms of, just the arsonist or just, my solution is also going into Mexico and talking to the Mexican government, being like, all right, so one of two things are true. Either they're in bed with cartel, or the cartel is that strong and the Mexican government literally can do nothing. one of two things are true. There's no in between. So,
or both.
well, yeah, right. Yeah, a little bit of both, right? Or I guess third is like China. But anyway, off that topic, we're just going with two. Other solution too is, so we have the ICE and we got to deport them. Well, if Mexico's not, helping out here, something's going to happen. I mean, like, it's going to continue, yada, yada, yada. Therefore, you leave this army, we'll call it, in the hands of the left later in life. So my other addition to this too is ending this once and for all, going to the Mexican government and saying, look, so here's what's going to happen. Either we find out that you are in bed, with the cartel, and we come in, and this is the one time I'm totally in favor of going into another country, because we can classify this as they're invading our country. So there's that. Or, hey, we go to the Mexican government. The cartel's actually really that strong. All right, cool. We'll help you out. We take out the cartel, and boom, done. And secure the border completely, finish the wall, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, that's how, in my opinion, you completely finish it, to where you don't need that stuff afterwards. Because again, like I said, my biggest thing is leaving power to the left. So leaving this stuff to be used later, to the point of, well, it wasn't last time, doesn't necessarily mean it won't be later, because it still can be. It just hasn't yet. Russia has nukes. They haven't nuked Ukraine yet. They can. Repercussions, of course, but they can. They just haven't yet. So I mean that's the argument on that end of things, as far as well, it wasn't used then, it won't be used now. That's not necessarily how everything plays out all the time. So yeah.
We'll talk. I'll answer, and then we can talk a little more about the future. If that war, like if we did a basically Mexican-American War 2.0, if things play out the way that you were talking about, I might support it.
Yeah.
But the problem is, there's always unforeseen consequences, no matter what way you slice it. I understand that this is a bleeding lesion on our southern border, and Mexico basically is doing crap about it. They just won't handle it, like you said,
either by their own fruition, or because
they're being forced to. Right.
Precisely. Right.
I don't know if America going down there and basically either toppling their government, or at the very least toppling the cartel, or both. In the long term, what does that mean? Does that mean we basically install like a puppet dictator and say, well, you're supported by us, not by the cartels? Might be a good thing in the long term.
No.
But the problem is, then what do you have? You have people in Mexico, like the regular Jose on the street, are like, this is imperialism, and now we hate America because they basically took over our country, or toppled our democratically elected government.
Yeah.
Reasoning with them, well, he was not the democratically elected government. He was in the pocket of the cartels. That's gonna fall on deaf ears, and there's no convincing citizens of Mexico. All right, well, we just lost Instagram because apparently I have a limit of an hour, but that's okay. We're cool. We're still on YouTube and Rumble, so we're good. So I just would worry that it would turn into a Vietnam, a quagmire where the cartels fight back a heck of a lot harder than our military can.
Yeah.
Because they have money and funding, and some comes from China. There's been people diving into that rabbit hole of where the fentanyl comes from.
Yes.
And is it in China's interest to be at our southern border, making America weak? Oh yeah. China would love to see an America weak, just in general. But yeah, they would love to do things with the cartels and the fentanyl, of course, and poisoning American people that are overdosing and so on. Because a lot of ways that's an act of war. But the point is, I would worry about it becoming a quagmire. That's sort of A. And B, I feel like it would be unsustainable, because if we did have a new government down there, or just kill all the cartels, it would be very hard to. We would basically have to have. They would almost have to become part of America.
To an extent,
to a
right?
degree.
I get your point.
And
Is what you're saying.
and it's hard
right?
to say would that be in our interests or not, because I see where you're coming from.
Well,
And then
Mexico becoming part of America.
well, in terms of having someone in that we can approve of.
Well, yeah.
And I don't. I get.
You can make the argument both ways.
But then if the Mexicans topple our guy,
yeah,
then what do we do? Do you have to go back in? Like, it's just it could be a quagmire of a lot of time and money being spent on this thing. And I have concerns. And again, the problem is, well, the status quo is really bad. I get that. The mindset could be, well, anything's got to be better than this. But I feel like it could get worse, which is a quagmire, because then we got American lives being spent, like our military's lives being spent, dying down there. And Ron DeSantis seems to at least support special military operations down there. He said that in 2024. And I understand where some people are coming from on that, because I'm like, here's my point. This is kind of where you're coming from. I don't want Americans' lives being spent in a desert in the Middle East. A desert on our southern border makes a lot more sense.
Well, yeah, because we're actually
something's
happening to us.
Right, and they're bringing drugs in and so on.
They're killing our people and, again, invading our country.
I can understand that argument. I do. But the problem, too, is, okay, but why stop at Mexico? Why do you not say, well, Nicaragua and Guatemala are funneling? Because that's the thing. Hardly any Mexicans are coming in now. It's a lot of Guatemalans,
The reason, so the reason I say Mexico specifically is because that's what is connected.
The Rio Grande.
Right. So that's the connection point.
Sure.
Obviously, yes, this does filter in, like you said, all those other countries, 100%, China, whatever, 100%. But if we take control of that center point, a lot of that does at least die down. And then we can, yes, if need be, take care of those other ones too. Right. But this is the main, that's the capital.
The other issue I would have is, in the case of Afghanistan and Iraq, the native population's soldiers did not join our military or work with our military in the numbers that they should have. A lot of people in Afghanistan and Iraq were very apathetic.
Right.
And I have a feeling that even if we did install our guy in their government as like a hypothetical,
of course,
most of the Mexican population would be like, they'd either be mad about American imperialism, that's how they would phrase it.
Of course.
That's how they would phrase it. Or they would say, like when it comes to guys coming from Honduras and Guatemala, they'd be like, I don't care.
Right.
Versus we would need them to be engaged and say, hey, we're going to join the border patrol, basically, of Mexico and kick out the Hondurans and the Guatemalans. And I would just say probably a lot of them are going to be apathetic. And that's a really hard... Our population here in America overall is not very apathetic. A lot of people are engaged. And I actually read a poll, it was from Newsmax, that said there's actually a poll showing that a lot of Americans are backing the Trump border policy. I don't think Mexico would really be on board with that. And I would worry that they would be so apathetic that America is going to be having to, do most of it.
Yeah.
Which is what we're doing now. And so I just don't know if there's enough reward to take that risk.
Well, and also, bringing Iraq, Iran, and other countries into this too. I think you take care of the Mexico issue. It also takes care of some Middle Eastern issues as far as on our end, because that's how they are sending a lot of their people into is through our weak border.
Sure.
So I think it takes care. If you can get control of that area, again, however that's done, that can be debated left and right, but if you can get control of that area, that significantly damages a lot of other countries for the right reason, as far as damages them to not damage our country.
Damages their ability to undermine us.
Right. Exactly. Right. Precisely. That's why I'm all for. I don't think just the deportation. I don't think just the wall, because there's going to be some other way. I don't know. Definitely. And again, I don't like alligator Alcatraz. Keeping them here isn't good. Even if it's in a alligator Alcatraz or whatever. That's not the solution. My solution is fix it. You go in. The way it gets bad is, yes, if other countries start to get involved, for sure. But I don't think it would be like a Vietnam of like, oh, wow, they're actually like strong. No, Mexico's not like that, in my personal opinion. Again, obviously I could be wrong for sure, but I don't think it would turn out to be a nom or anything like that of like, wow, that's it's a lot worse than what we thought, or like, you know, they're a lot stronger than we thought. I don't think it would turn out to be like an Afghan. Definitely wouldn't, in my opinion, definitely wouldn't turn out to be a 20-year war in Afghan. Just because of all the pushback you would get anyway. You'd either end up pulling out if it does turn out bad, you know, and then also just all the pushback. You're not going to be there 20 years, in my opinion, anyway.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well, you've made your case, and I've made mine.
Yeah.
So we can move on. What do you see happening? We'll talk about 2028 next time. What do you see happening in the midterms? So I want to just read a quick poll that I have that was polling Americans just in general, looking at the support that the Democrats have. And again, this is important to note. It's about a month old, and it's in 2025, not 2026, which is when the actual midterms happen. Because then a lot can change. You and I were saying in the prep, a lot can change. A poll of registered voters shows another drop in the number of people supporting the Democrat Party. The latest Harvard Cap/Harris poll shows a decline in voter support, falling to 40%. That's a 2% slide for Democrats compared with the group's poll in June. So this is actually July. The poll's disapproval rating for Democrats bumped up a corresponding amount to 60% in the current poll of registered voters compared with the 58% disapproval rating from June. So basically in June, the disapproval rating from voters was 58. Now it's 60. Republicans are showing 12 percentage points better with a 48% disapproval rating from voters in the poll. That's a 4% improvement based on the 52% disapproval rating in the June poll. So basically, Republicans had a disapproval rating, of 52. It's now dropped to 48. So right now, the disapproval rating for Republicans is better. It's worse for Dems. Democrats have seemingly been struggling to regain footing after their losses from the 2024 November general election, which President Donald Trump soundly won over Vice President Kamala Harris. Republicans also have majority control of the House and the Senate. Real quick, I just want to say it's disapproval is a vague term.
Oh, yeah.
Is it disapproval because they don't think they're radical enough?
Right.
Is it disapproval because they think they're incompetent? Is it disapproval because they're actually leaning right now?
Right.
That's a very nebulous term. And the other thing is the Democrats right now, I don't know how you feel about this, they don't really have a leader.
No, right. And
Harris
talked about that.
Harris is the vanquished leader. She lost.
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton, after she lost, was viewed very negatively.
Yep.
AOC is young, and she has a big following on Instagram. She does live streams talking to Zoomers, and that's actually an advantage in her favor with young people, right? However, and I say that especially young women like Harris, because a lot of young women are very liberal. Young men, it's more complicated. A lot of them are actually leaning right. But with that said, there's not really, like, the Republicans have Trump. That's one leader that they have. He's the face of the Republican Party. It's not Biden. It's probably not Harris either. Is it AOC? To a degree, but she's not president or vice president or anything like that. She's not even Speaker of the House, right?
Right.
It would be Pelosi, but Pelosi's not Speaker of the House right now. It's Mike Johnson. So there's not really a face of leadership. You could say, well, Hakeem Jeffries is in the House and he's sort of a leader, but I don't see a lot of Democrats. And again, social media is not real life, but I don't see a lot of Democrats being like, he's our guy. We love Hakeem Jeffries. I don't see that. I see Mamdani in New York to an extent, but that feels like a fringe group of people.
He's not the guy.
Right. I'd say he might be a guy that some people are looking to, but he's got to win first. He's a candidate right now. He'd have to win. So. I think he will. I tend to agree with you. We haven't even talked about that, but I tend to agree with you. And I think when that does happen, it'll be a temperature pulse on our temperature check on the Democrat Party of, hey, they are going further and further left. I mean, that's the way the Democrats are going. I think a lot can happen between now and 2026. I'm nervous. A lot of people, like I listen to some people and they're like, oh, right now they have bad numbers. A lot can change, man. A lot can change.
So did Trump.
Right.
So I'm like you. I'm concerned as far as the game plan for the Dems. If I'm a Democrat, what I would do is we have no guy. Unless you want to run with Newsom, which you in theory could. He does. He actually doesn't poll bad. He actually is a decent debater.
He polls bad with Republicans, but that tells us nothing. Well, we're not going to vote for the guy anyway.
Right, obviously. Right.
Some Democrats like him.
It's so left
Especially
and right
older
now.
Democrats probably
Oh
like him.
yeah,
You know?
100%. Yeah, and
Because
well,
he's
also
50 or 60.
Yeah.
He's getting up there.
And again, also he's got a good smile, like
Right.
which actually does,
Joe Biden didn't have a bad smile.
No, right.
You know, with it's weird, but physically, when you look okay, people like it.
It does actually.
Right.
You've got to be appealing to the eye too to actually, so when you're trying to, become president, you are selling yourself too.
Yes.
So you got to look good. So he's got that physical feature and everything. He's a good talker, at least as far
That's
as you want to, if you want to say good debater, again, sure, but he's a good talker. So I would run with Newsom, but also if I'm a Democrat, I'm taking losses right now, not intentionally, but we have nobody. We have no like this is our guy. But I would take the losses and do what we can. Take them small areas. So, for example, New York, right, which is already left. We understand that. But, all right, we just got this radical guy in New York who, again, I think is going to win. Let's start doing that in other places. So we start planting seeds, so to speak. And then eventually that one buys you time. And two, doesn't matter if we have the guy or not. We've planted all these seeds here. Now the guy that we put in place is the guy because everybody's going to vote for him anyway. So I'm taking the small loss, right now and playing the long game. However, I don't see Democrats playing the long game. I've never seen the Democrats play the long game. They want power now, and so they go with whatever they can, and hence why we got Kamala hence why they got Kamala as the running mate, because they wouldn't take that small loss. One, because they fear-mongered themselves into Trump being Hitler. And then two, because they want power now. So we have to run with somebody now. And it was Kamala. Which was a terrible idea as we see it. So yeah, if I was a Democrat or man, I need to go work for the Dems. But yeah, long term, this gets you ultimate power because you start planting seeds in smaller areas. But no, the only guy that I would run with would be Newsom if I'm a Democrat. Also, as far as 2026, though, that's where I would try and take some of my small wins. Get as much of the House and as much of the Senate as I can. I mean, they're definitely at least going to try doing that because that's really all they can do right now. So yeah, I would definitely try and get as much of the House and as much of the Senate as I can, and then start planting seeds all around. In 2028, maybe we get a Democrat in. Who knows?
I think the likelihood is big.
Potentially. It depends.
Because a lot of people didn't think Trump was going to lose his 2020 election. I understand there were shenanigans, but I think that as time goes on, it's very possible we're going to start seeing less two-term presidents. Not two-term, two consecutive term presidents.
Yeah.
I think Grover Cleveland and now Donald Trump are going to sort of be, to a degree, not 100%, but it's going to start to become more normal for a president to serve for 4, someone else to get in, then the same person run again, and maybe the establishment or the RNC goes with them, maybe they don't. But because people,
I think Trump
you and
runs
I
again.
We're talking about, we'll get into that in a second. You and I were talking about the short memory of people. People will forget, for example, how bad the Biden years really were.
Yeah.
And by 2028, a lot of normies and so on are going to be like, well, let's
People
get more Democrats in there.
Yeah.
And it's all about this kind of just teenagery anti whoever's in. Like, I'm against the current thing, and if the current thing is the right, then we're going to try and
we're going left, right.
And as a result, I do think that if there are two-term presidents, it's probably going to be the Democrats because they have all the institutional power and so on. But yeah, I think that it's pretty likely that someone, and it's probably going to be a Democrat who is actually, and the right is going to be sounding the alarm and saying, this guy's a borderline communist or like a communist sympathizer. The left is going to say, there's no proof of that. What are you talking about? Kind of like Obama. And he's going to get in there because he was not raised, but he lived with Bill Ayers for a while. Bill Ayers is a communist. And the right warned, hey, this guy's bad news. This guy is a senator from Illinois. He's bad. Don't do this. And Obama got in there. He was in for 2 years because you talk about a nice smile, you talk about having charisma and so on.
Well, and he could talk. I mean, he really could talk.
Very good communicator.
Oh, yeah.
Very good communicator. It's funny because people were talking about Vivek being like Obama. It's like, no, Vivek is just kind of a good communicator, and Obama was a good communicator too. I don't think it's that he
like can talk
Obama.
like Obama.
To a degree.
That's the comparison. Like, he's a good communicator. Like
right.
Obama
That's kind of what I'm saying.
Sure. Yeah.
But I do. And I think it'll be someone, because Obama kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton had been in for a long time. I mean, she was the husband of the president at one point.
Oh, yeah.
She didn't get in. It was this guy from...
She couldn't
That's
talk.
true, too. But I'm talking about in terms of the surprise factor.
Yeah.
I could see someone almost like an Andrew Yang leaving the forward party, coming back to the Democrat Party, because he's not
old. People like him, too.
He's got the smile.
And he makes things make sense, kind of.
He's a good communicator. I think he also has a weird disarming quality where like he'll go on the daily the Sunday special with Shapiro, and he'll probably go to talk to other people that are sort of on the right. He'll probably go on Joe Rogan, right? I don't think he would shy away from Joe Rogan. I think Andrew Yang would do that. And if he does that, what's that going to do? A lot of normies are going to be listening.
Yep.
And I think that he's smart enough, and Obama was smart too, to not shy away from the internet circles. Harris was tone deaf. Harris was like, Joe Rogan, nah. Or she was intimidated by, what if he asks me a question I don't have the earbud to listen to the answer.
Well, and also like Andrew Yang he has empathy.
He comes across like he does. I don't know if it comes from sincerity or not.
I think he does. I still wouldn't vote for him just because of some of his policies for sure. Anyway, because I actually do listen to him talk, or have listened to him talk before. But I think he's one of those guys that genuinely does want what's best, and he thinks what he's saying is what's best for the country and for other people too. So I do think he has empathy. But again, like you said, he at least comes across like he has empathy, which therefore can be a dangerous thing
or
too.
fake,
which can be a dangerous thing too.
I think he's a threat for sure. In terms of, again, and I think he would not come out of nowhere because he has run. He just didn't run successfully in the primary in 2020. Right. But to a degree, it would be sort of a surprise, because he would be surprising because he's now in a different political party.
Right.
He would need to leave it and run for the DNC, and the DNC would have to make a calculation. This guy would need to be in bed with the establishment. And I don't know if he would run as a sort of like an anti-establishment figure. Now, Obama ran as an anti-establishment figure. He ran on the backs of the Wall Street protesters.
Yep.
Occupy. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then he got in. It was very clear this guy's not doing a lot of what the protesters wanted. He's doing what the rich people wanted,
right.
who are like in with the Democrat establishment and just the establishment in general. And so I think that the people on the Democrat playing field, there's only a couple that I worry about. I think I'm more worried about someone who shows up out of nowhere and basically cons the country.
Right.
And that's what, and again, the right, I think elements of the right will sound the alarm, but other parts of the right will say, he's not that big of a threat.
Yeah.
And then what will happen is that person will get in, and then it might be really hard to get that person out.
Right.
Because I will say this, getting a Republican who's an incumbent out can be done. We saw that in 2020.
Oh, yeah.
Getting a Democrat, a lot of people thought Romney was going to beat Obama.
Oh, yeah.
That was not close. I mean, electoral college-wise.
Terrible thought that Romney could beat
Obama. Oh, he was bad. He was bad news. He's a centrist.
Well, and also Romney had his own Romney Care and everything else. So, like, in theory, you kind of get the same guy.
He didn't run to the right of Obama. He tried to run as like, I'm common sense. And it's like, well, that gets you only so far.
Basically the same thing.
You need to have a difference. And so, I tend to agree with that. I do. That's the other thing I worry about. I worry that when Trump leaves, I don't worry. I know this is going to happen. That there's going to be a push in the Republican Party to move to the middle. No. And that I do. I think that's going to happen. And because people are going to say, okay, we had our fun. We had a guy named Trump in there. He got a lot of stuff done, but let's go back to the old way. And that's what I have concern about.
I think it gets shut down. The reason is because more and more people, like, for example, just men, right? Women lean left, men lean right, like more and more right. Then and what actually won Trump that if they're smart, what actually won Trump that presidency is men actually got out there and voted, right? Typically it's like, oh, women need to go out and vote. That is true. But if men get out and vote too, it's game over. So yeah.
I would say married couples too, because a lot of the women that lean left are single.
Yeah.
When a woman becomes married, some of them stay liberal, but some move toward the right.
Right. 100%.
And the way I see it is a lot of women are either very liberal or very conservative.
Right, for sure.
I mean, I've got, as you saw before in the prep, I got almost a shelf of Ann Coulter books.
Right.
So she's an example of that. She's a minority, but she's an example of
for
that.
sure. So if they do that, I think it gets shut down just because of the people, what the people are wanting, and how they're leaning anyway. So I think even if they could push it, they could push.
They will is what I'm saying.
They could push a Lindsey Graham, who's not even middle. But they could push a Lindsey Graham, but it gets shut down. I think they're gonna have to go with somebody that's in this party, as far as like, have to push a Vivek, have to push like, somebody out there that's more right than middle. So yeah,
I like the optimism. I hope so, man.
Yeah,
I definitely
not
think
optimistic.
I definitely think that. I think you're right that the zeitgeist is changing over time. I just hope that the zeitgeist has changed enough where I'm wrong.
Oh, for sure.
And regardless, they will run a candidate. The question is, what you're contending is, are they going to be successful?
Right. Yeah.
In getting that candidate in, because there are definitely Republicans I will not.
Chris Christie will run again. I mean,
he's turning into like the guy with the shoe on his head, Vermin Supreme.
Oh yeah.
Of like a perennial candidate. Like every time there's a presidential election, he's going to come out and vote. Or cut out.
I thought Chris Christie get this time, yeah.
And every time it's going to be every election cycle, kind of like Vermin Supreme. I'm running for free ponies. It's going to be Chris Christie. I'm running for the Republican Party. Basically. And so, but yeah, I hope that the zeitgeist is changing and that things are moving in a better direction. So, real quick, guys, make sure you're following us on social media. It's at ZooNation1776 on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Zoo_Nation_ on Instagram. You can find us here. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed on YouTube and Rumble. Follow us on Rumble and comment. Make sure you're pressing the like button too. And you've got, I think it's Elevate with Nate on Instagram. Is there any underscores in that? I don't think so. If there is, you can find him. He's easy to find. Follow Celtics fan 33. Because if you go there, you should be able to see Elevate with Nate.
Yeah, you should be able to.
Because Elevate with Nate is a lot of personal
training and everything. Yeah.
Cool. So do that. Follow Celtics fan 33 on Instagram, and then follow me. I'm pretty much Fog and Whirlwind everywhere on Gab, X, on Instagram as well. Fog and Whirlwind. I think this has been good, and we'll wrap up. Thank you guys. Appreciate all the support. Everyone have a great evening and take